Welcome to 705 Sports. It is our Friday edition. Hope you checked out our Thursday edition with our full CFL preview. Dan is back with me once again. And
2 days in a row I got to deal with you?
I don't know how you're doing it, number one. I think that's why you brought he brought a laptop. We both have some.
Because to be very honest, I haven't had a whole lot of chance to look at everything that's on this script today, so I need some help. And I found it in about 7 tabs across the top here, so we should see how this
Dan,
goes.
it's okay. We all know you need some help.
No, I needed help for a long time. You talked to a lot of my friends.
But let's move on to our poll question for the day, which is, which Canadian team is the best in the NHL right now? Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, or Winnipeg? And Dan, I'm going to let you answer it first.
Stats-wise and on paper, Toronto. And probably on ice, too. A couple of weeks ago, you could have made the argument Winnipeg was sort of right there. Winnipeg's seen, we're going to touch this, but Winnipeg's seen a bit of a lull in the last few games. Nothing I'm not really worried about. But on paper and probably on ice right now, I got to think it's probably the Leafs.
Now, you know what? I personally feel the Leafs as well, but I am going to make an argument for the Calgary Flames. The Calgary Flames roll 4 lines. Mangiapane's been playing out of this world. Markstrom is playing the way he was expected to. Right now, I think you could argue Calgary is in that same category as Toronto, just because they have that ability to roll the 4 lines. But I do agree with you, Dan, personally. I think Toronto is a bit better, but I think Calgary, right now, I'd actually say Calgary's better than Edmonton, and Calgary is better than Winnipeg.
Well, Edmonton and Winnipeg have that, Edmonton especially still has the same problem they've had every year, which is that first 2 lines, if you can neutralize them, and you can neuter them, then you're stuck with that, with the back. One of the things that Toronto's going to suffer from here, though, is a lack of Kempf.
Yes.
But we're going to get there momentarily because we have to recap a disastrous second and third period.
Because, I mean, unlike this game from the Leafs where they got a lot of good things to happen, let's now move on to the Greyhounds. So the Sioux Greyhounds were up 3-0. Things are looking pretty good. They got a quick start, and you know what? They've been doing that a lot this year.
Really
Their first periods have
starts.
been very impressive.
I haven't been able to pull up the stats, but if you were to look at shots in the first period overall, you would find, and I'm thinking goals, so you probably outscore them, and I'll go back and look at this for next week, but you probably outscored them a bunch in the first period. Where they run into trouble is the last 30 minutes of a hockey game.
You know, and lately it's been the second period. This game, it was second and the third. So they were up 3-0. Then they go down. It's 3-1 going into the third. They still blow a 3-1 lead, and they lose this game. It's frustrating for Hounds fans because you see the potential in the team, but they're still not playing a full 60. Now,
Hounds fans online, though, they're calling for a defenseman, and I think after watching some of the clips and watching some of the games, we're probably right. They're a bit like the Leafs in this matter, where they could use a front-line type A defenseman. Unfortunately, in junior hockey, that just doesn't happen as easily.
Now, what we need to remember, though, this year the Hounds weren't supposed to be good. They were aiming to be battling for a playoff spot.
5, 6, 7, 8.
I think they overperformed to start the year, and now we're unfortunately seeing where the team's at. And I'm not criticizing this team at all. Dan and I were one of the only ones to start the year. I want to remind the viewers that, where we said this team is a playoff-bound team and they have a lot of upside, but there's going to be growing pains. And frankly, we're seeing the growing pains.
Issues, again, revolve around defensive end responsibilities and staying out of the box.
Oh, 100%.
Two of those 5 goals last night were power play for Sarnia, so penalty kill goals.
Erie.
Yep, Sarnia's later. Sarnia, we get another thing on that later, but yeah. Sarnia is this weekend. Sarnia-born Hookie is going to get to play in Sarnia, which is kind of nice for them to do. He hasn't played much. But yeah, we have to find, and maybe the lineup shake is worth that type of. It's that time to put a few people in the lineup that might be a little more defensively minded.
But then the question just is, do the Hounds have that there? But I still think for the Hounds, I know people are calling for it to trade for a goalie, which actually I don't really think Ivanov's the problem. They're talking about trading for a defenseman. I think if we want the Hounds to win a Memorial Cup, next year or the year after. I think we just need to deal with the growing pains this year, be better next year, and still make the playoffs this year, maybe even win a round or two and overperform.
And maybe even be the home team. Because in Sault Ste. Marie, one of the biggest things that I think, just making the damn drive again, that you really want to be is you want to be that home team. You don't want to have to take that 7-hour drive and play Kitchener, or take that even worse with the border. Well, thankfully the border is going to be open, so maybe that makes the trip a little easier to Windsor. But that 5-hour drive and go play Windsor, 4 out of 7 games. Like you want to be able to have that here,
100%. But overall, Hounds fans, don't panic. We actually are going to have a special segment next week about the Hounds, but a little teaser. But now let's move on.
A Leafs update
to the Leafs. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Leafs here, and we have some vids that's going to come up here about just how they were playing in this last game. Actually, we're going to go to the graphic first, but that's okay. The core four is doing their job right now for Toronto. So Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Mitch Marner, and I really want to focus on John Tavares. John Tavares was someone last year, Dan, let's be honest, both of us were kind of like, hey, when's he going to...
When's he going to pick it up?
And now, I'm just going to say, right now he's kicking ass and taking names. So, he's really playing the style of hockey you want him to. And he's developing, now we're getting that 1A and 1B, which was the whole point of getting Tavares.
17 points in 18 games is a little concerning for Austin. And people have been asking, where is Austin Matthews in all of this? He hasn't really been scoring. I still honestly think he's dealing with a lingering wrist issue, making it a little more difficult to be the 100% Austin Matthews we're all worried about. One of the teams, what they're really going to miss Kempf. I don't know. I haven't heard a lot timeline.
So actually, I have some news on Kempf.
Okay.
Kempf did skate in practice. It looks like he's okay. So that's good news. I don't know if he's going to be in the lineup tonight or not, but he did practice, a full practice yesterday.
When he left the ice, it looked like a collarbone and or wrist.
It did, and that made me very, very concerned because Kempf is...
14 to 15 minutes. And they said right after he's trusted.
He's been good.
He's good as, and I want to say, 1C. You know what I mean? That next line of people that they trust to play hockey for this team on a 14 to 15 minute basis, he's right there. And you would have had a hard time filling those shoes. Who would you have filled it with? Say he's gone. I just want your idea. Who do you fill that with?
I think then you move Kerfoot back to the third, and you hope that either Ritchie or Simmons can play on the second line, or maybe a guy like Kyle Clifford. And
I liked Clifford the other night. He played well.
I think Clifford will be in the lineup soon, and he's gonna add that physical prowess to Toronto. But fingers crossed, Kempf is not a long-term injury. It doesn't look like it's going to be a long-term injury. Time will tell if the Leafs decide to play him not 100%, or maybe they hold off a couple games, because it's not like we're struggling right now. But let's move on to the Winnipeg Jets. So the Winnipeg Jets have lost 4 in a row, which is something you see in a season. Seasons do have ups and downs, don't get me wrong. But there are things about Winnipeg that are concerning me personally. I do agree with you, Dan. I don't think it's time to freak out and blow up the team and this, that, and the next
Winnipeg fans are so much more subtle when it comes to blowing up the team. Toronto loses 4 in a row, and it's like, panic button,
and Winnipeg's like...
And Winnipeg's like, it happened. It's not minus 50 yet, so we're good. So yeah, it's interesting. The Leafs did drop 4 in a row. I think they actually dropped 5 in a row earlier this year, and fans in Toronto were going crazy. We're looking at Winnipeg now. They've dropped 4. Fans are going a little bit nuts, but I think this team's going to be fine.
Not to the same extent, but what I want to do is I still want to talk about some players in Winnipeg that are playing well. So we have a graphic that's going to come up from the Winnipeg's top players. So Kyle Connor has really stepped up with 22 points. Pierre-Luc Dubois, we focused on him to start the year, saying he either needs to wake up or move. And he's woken up. He's playing... I still think he could be a little bit better, in my personal opinion, but he's been one of Winnipeg's top players. Then we have Andrew Cobb, who was a pretty consistent player, and Connor Hellebuyck struggled at the start of the year, but is now starting to find his game. But what you might be thinking, well, where's Scheifele? Where's Wheeler? That's on our next graphic. That's players who are underperforming, which that graphic's going to come up on your screen as well. And when we look at the players who are underperforming, it's some names that kind of surprise us personally. I mean, Winnipeg still is figuring out ways to win, but on this losing streak, there are certain players who aren't playing well, like Mark Scheifele, who isn't having as good of a year as normal, where he only has 7 points. Wheeler doesn't have a single goal yet this year.
Lowry only has 4 points.
Lowry only has 4, and Riley Nash, which I know he's a defensive centerman, but he's a -1.
Yeah. -1 for a defensive centerman isn't always... Out of those 4 players, the one that doesn't concern me the most is Nash.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
He's played relatively well to be where he's at. The two that really do worry me is Scheifele and Wheeler. I'll be honest with you, they got to find whatever game they're missing. Could be a chemistry thing.
It could be, and I know Paul Maurice is still giving Wheeler like 18 minutes a game, and I wonder if Wheeler's just getting too old. I wonder if he's sort of like, you know how Jason Spezza for the Leafs does so well in that 10 to 12 minutes a game? I wonder if Wheeler needs to be that maybe 12 to 14 instead of 15 to 18.
Yeah.
And I think with Scheifele, I think they just need to find him line mates that's working. Maybe you need to move him up in the lineup. Right now, Scheifele's on the third line because he's underperforming. But at the same time, it's causing problems.
Under teams that are underperforming, we have to get to Ottawa here real quick.
We do.
A whole team needs to wake up, but we have a clip.
We have a clip, so we'll roll that clip of the Ottawa Senators head coach, and he is not happy.
Yeah, I just think our compete level has to be higher, and there was some guys there, but you know, our motto this year has to be no excuses, and it really can't be. It doesn't matter who's out, who's in. Our level of compete has to be high every night for us to have a chance to win. Some nights you're not going to win. And that's part of sports, but we have to have a constant theme here that every night we go to work, and you have to do it in practice if you want to do it in games.
And when you hear DJ Smith talking about that, the Ottawa Senators were always a team with effort, and now the effort, he feels the effort isn't there. What do you think, Dan? Do you think Ottawa's effort's there?
Could we copy and paste this to a local team too, please? Show up with the effort all the time. You watch them on ice, they're not skating for the pucks, they're not, we're going to go back to Kevin here, getting pucks in deep and giving 110%. It's just, they're not. They're giving 90%, they're giving 80%. And a team in the NHL, it doesn't matter who you are, if you only give 80%, you watch it when the Leafs play the lower tier teams and just don't think they're better than them right off the bat, you don't win.
No, you don't.
It happened against Pittsburgh again on Saturday night. We had a great win against Los Angeles, but it happened against Pittsburgh on Saturday night. You play a little down, you don't show up for the game, and you run into a hot goal, you don't win. And the other problem in Ottawa is goalie.
Yeah, Matt Murray's been struggling. As you can see in these highlights, some of the goals he's letting in are not typical for the type of play that we want from him. But we got to go to a break, so we're going to just go out on this fizz. As you can see, the Ottawa Senators are struggling, but make sure you come on back.
Season's greetings from all of us at Maker North.
The Canadian Bushplane Heritage Centre wishes you all a very Merry Christmas and a healthy, prosperous New Year. May your holidays sparkle with joy and laughter. Merry Christmas from the Canadian Bushplane Heritage Centre.
Hi, this is Peter Stefanizzi, and my question is, if the Leafs don't make it past the first round of the playoffs, does Sheldon Keefe still keep his job?
And thank you so much, Peter, for sending in your Streeter question. This is something new we're doing on the show. If you have any questions for Dan and I, or just Dan, or just I matey, then send your questions in. Dan, I did get a reaction out of you on the first segment, so I had to get it on the second. But let's talk about this. If the Leafs don't make it past the first round, does Sheldon Keefe keep his job?
Off the record and off the conversation desk here yesterday when this came across, you had my reaction was fairly simple. They got to win right to the conference final. There's no option there. They lose in the conference final, he may still have a job. You lose in the first or second round, he's done. He's done. You're probably seeing Nylander, Marner, or if you can't get a commitment out of Matthews to stay longer than his contract, Matthews going somewhere else. The only person you can't trade is Tavares.
Because there's no movement.
And if Keefe goes, Yeah, if he goes, you probably see Shanahan walking too.
And honestly, I think you probably see Dubas. I think either the entire front office is gone or everyone stays, because I don't think Dubas will get rid of them, unfortunately. So I think it's either going to be, and it'll prove to then the Shanna plan didn't work, hypothetically. If the Leafs, I agree with you, Dan, I think they need to make it to the conference finals. And if hypothetically, the first round's obviously
Can we find a way to
statement.
do it without going through Boston? That's I think in the
But
end,
I almost feel like we'll feel better if we do it by getting through Boston.
But mentally, this town is so messed up when you see a Boston Bruin, whether it be in Toronto or in Boston, it's in their head they're going to lose, or there's a doubt there. Any other team in the freaking league, you put them up against them, and they're like, yeah, we can beat this team. It seems like there's something in the back of the head of the Leafs. The minute you stick them in Boston, or the other way around, they get nervous. They play scared. They play tight. And if we can get through, if Washington or somebody, I know a friend out there, if your team could take out Boston or somebody else could take out Boston, we feel better against Tampa even at this point.
I agree with you on that, actually. I think our style of play actually suits a team like Tampa a lot more than it does a team like Boston.
Or if the NHL was actually to call the gripping and holding and everything else that a team out of Boston may or may not do during the playoffs, you might find a better chance for a fast team like Toronto.
But to answer your question, Peter, if the Leafs don't make it past the first round, Sheldon Keefe, we believe, will lose his job.
Absolutely.
But now let's move on quickly. Normally this is where we do a bunch of CFL stuff in this segment.
We go to the Greenland.
But because we did a full preview episode, we're not going to do too much on the CFL. Let's just quickly go over the two games for the weekend, which we have graphics that are going to come up on your screen. And let's see. Can I? No, I'm turning into you on that one. So we had the Alouettes versus the Tiger Cats. A simple keys to victory. We'll quickly break this down for you real quick. Limit Hamilton's big plays. Montreal, get your running game going. The second game we have is the Stampeders versus the Rough Riders, which that other graphic's just going to rotate out. Oh, whoa, look at that fancy transition. For the Stamps, they want to force those 50-50 balls. As we know, Rough Riders are not good at it. For the Rough Riders, avoid the big play and try to get those first downs. But if you're looking for a full breakdown, check out yesterday's episode. It was a great episode. We had a ball.
Just two things on the Rough Riders and the Tiger Cats. I've got them both going to the Grey Cup. With that said, though, they both got to throw downfield accurately. Those are my keys for those two teams to win. They have to throw downfield accurately. If they do that, they're fine. Imagine, put yourself here for a minute. I know you don't have kids, but
I don't?
We're not even going to go there. Anyway, you don't have kids, but you sit across and America, Canada, it's all the same. You're watching a CFL game or you're watching a hockey game and your 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old are in the room with you if you're lucky. What are they doing? They're probably on their phones. They're probably watching something else. And Gen Z does not equal a very good sports fan.
No, and this was a stat that really surprised me when, funny enough, Dan Gray and I were setting up the schedule and the rundown and everything, and then another viewer, Alex, sent us the question about getting younger viewers interested in sports. So we have a graphic from fandomanalytics.ca, and this is just showing you, as you can see, males are becoming less and less interested in sports, male Gen Zs. Now, females, it's gone up. Well, and I think that's because of the marketing, the way sports are trying to market to women, which I'm not criticizing that they're marketing to women.
No, it's absolutely a wonderful thing that we're finally
fantastic.
getting them, we're finally including them, whether it be from play-by-play broadcasters right down to sports
analysts.
Thank you. What you're supposed to, that thing says back there on the back wall. Doing those things and targeting women and telling them you can do this. This is a great thing for women. What you're starting to see is the disinterest. The games are too long, etc. I know, and we're going to talk about this. Avid versus anti-sports fan. There you go.
And that's another one where we're seeing millennials, so like myself, and you're a millennial technically, I think. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Dan's an old fart. But
I'm BG, like the guy in the back before Google.
But as you can see, it's the Gen Zs where you're having less and less interest. And one of my points I'm wondering, and when I think of the younger audience, and this is nothing against the younger audience, is ticket pricing the issue? Because it used to be, when I was a kid, back in my day, You could go
God.
to a Barrie Colts game, myself, my brother, my mom, and my grandpa. And you could go get 4 tickets, hot chocolate and cookies, and you'd be spending that $60 to $70 range. Well, tickets are for professional sports and even amateur sports, where Hounds tickets start at about $25 a ticket now. So a family of 4 with food and everything, you're easily spending $150. You want to go to an NHL game, the average cost for a cheap seat across the league is $119. NFL $135. MLB is when you're starting to get to cheaper ones, but the cheap seats they're not very good. And you're looking still at $54. And this is where I'm wondering, we've talked about how the Canadian Football League needs to get more fans. Should they be targeting the family younger audience because they are more affordable? The Toronto Argos, for example, the division final, I can get a seat for $25.
See, so, and I see what you're saying there, but I also think when you look at MLSE and a couple of the other big companies that own these teams, start putting these CFL tickets in, and it came, one of our readers in one of the groups said, great idea, start putting these tickets in with the NHL tickets. So it's a day-night thing.
It's a bundle.
It's a bundle. You want to go see the Leafs game on Saturday night? Well, here's a free ticket, or here's a whatever, even if it's a free ticket at this point, to the Argos game Friday night. Take your or a bundle package there.
Even do an Argo game Friday afternoon, Leaf game Saturday night.
Or Saturday
with a
afternoon,
bundle, because
Saturday
they also talk about how a big issue has been transportation for some of these arenas.
I think
so
Edmonton's the same issue.
buses.
I think Edmonton is the same way. The team owns the CFL's owned by the same. I'm not 100%
Same with Winnipeg.
sure. And Winnipeg are the same way. You start bundling your professional team with your professional team.
And then another thing that, actually funny enough, when this question got brought up, myself, our weather specialist, Craig Huckerby, and one of our video producers, Garrett, we were all talking about, well, the younger generation watches things differently. So is it the platforms that they're putting sports on? Is that the issue? Is it that highlight packages, should they be putting them on TikTok and like top goals of the night, and it's just like a quick 1-minute thing that goes on a TikTok or Instagram and things along those lines? I sound old saying a TikTok, but you do wonder, should sports be switching to more of a streaming model where it's a streaming platform, and even if it's a free streaming platform and you make all your money off your advertising dollars, because not to be awful, but if you don't engage the younger audience, you're not going to have an audience at some point.
Baseball is where I go here when I look at things like this.
Play ball.
Play ball at less than 3 hours a game, please. Even for the busy adult who has to worry about so much more than they did even 20, 25 years ago, there's no time anymore for a prolonged strike them out, throw them out, or hit the home run game. There has to be ways to make it more entertaining, more grabby, more, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, whether it's finding bigger bases, whether it's bigger nets, or eliminating some of the rules in hockey to make it higher scoring. Goals, unfortunately, are entertaining. A defensive 1-0 game. It can be to the person who's invested in the sport.
True. But one other thing I do want to say, because we got to go to commercial break, but the only other thing in sporting defense, they are also having troubles because this is a COVID world where so many sports were paused for a year plus. But we got to go to a commercial break, and we're going to talk about this topic again, because I think this is one that we could dive a lot deeper into. But come right back, and we're going to break down the NHL games, which is a lot of them is tonight. Very odd. Some teams aren't even playing on Saturday. But stay there. Don't go anywhere. And then come back, even though you're not going anywhere. We'll be right back. May all that is beautiful, meaningful, and brings you joy by yours this holiday season and throughout the coming year. From the management and staff from Community Living Algoma, we wish you a Christmas that is merry and bright. The best of the holiday season from Twin Mechanical Contracting Limited. The staff and management of Twin Mechanical Contracting Limited wish you and yours a season of health and happiness, filled with joy of the holiday season. Merry Christmas from all of us at Twin Mechanical Contracting Limited.
This might be a first for our show. We're talking a little bit of curling, free guard zones, double takeouts, and everything else goes out on frozen ice. It's a different game on ice. It's not quite hockey, but anyway. And some of us, it's a little more entertaining than hockey. But As it looks right now, Brad Jacobs is going to be doing okay in the 2021 Tim Hortons Canadian curling trials. This is going to decide who goes to the Olympics for Canada. He's second as of the end of the last night, or as of yesterday. He's got 2 draws today. He wins out, and even if he loses one of those 2 draws, he could be okay. Given that, on the other side, we're looking at Fleury is in the lead for the women's, with Jennifer Jones, Carrie Einerson, and Kristen McCarville all sitting there ready to play. Top 3 in each go. It's a page playoff system. For those of you that are familiar with the sport, this weekend's going to be fun.
Oh, definitely. You know, I think, too, especially it's always nice to see a hometown guy who's having a chance to play for his country, and I know he's done it before, and he has a very good chance of doing it again. As Dan said, as long as he can finish strong, he's got a very good chance.
At least of making the playoffs. He's going to run into some trouble. The 2 teams that he will play in the playoffs are when you're at this level, you can beat anybody at any given time. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of that way. There's so many people play this game in this country that you get the cream of the crop when you send them off to a trial like this. Unlike maybe a China or other teams where it's just picking up as a sport, here you get the best of 100-some-odd thousand curlers across the country.
And you know, I think most Canadians have tried curling at least once.
Usually by going to school.
Yeah, I actually used to curl, and so did you, Dan. I know you were more professional than I was. I was falling hysterically trying not to.
If a high school title or
that's still more professional than I was.
Professional? Yeah, okay.
I was a professional faller when I curled. But it's all in good fun. Much more difficult sport than it looks, and all jokes aside.
Just a quick thing for anybody that is following this and may do curling. If you go to fall backwards, tuck your head, pull your shoulders up. That's the fastest and safest way to do it. And we're going to fall into another game that we play on ice. And we have a whole weekend, which doesn't really start on a Saturday night, which is awfully weird. But it's the Friday between Thanksgiving Saturday and a whole whack of really good football on. Or Thanksgiving Thursday, a whole whack of really good football on Saturday. So NHL tries to stick all their we exist too moments. So
most of the NHL, we're obviously just going to be breaking down some of the Canadian teams, and we're going to start with a lot of games on Friday. So Friday at 4 p.m., which is our old air time. I see now that 705 Sports in there at 4 anymore. The NHL understands it's okay for them to put up one of their games.
Yeah, that's exactly the reason.
So that is the entire reason. So let's start with the Anaheim Ducks versus the Ottawa Senators. And we have a graphic that's going on here. And for Ottawa, as we talked about earlier in the show, they just need to care. And I think all 4 lines are not. DJ Smith also said in that interview later on how their goaltending needs to steal them a game. So I think their goaltending needs to be better. Play a full 60 minutes.
That sounds like a short hook for Murray if he doesn't.
I still think Murray could be gone very soon. But for Anaheim, who, by the way, have been way better than anyone expected, Anaheim, if they can get an early start because of the Sens' lack of confidence and play them hard, I brackets like Leafs a few years ago. This is where Ottawa's at right now, where their younger skilled guys are having a bit of a hard time playing the more physical game that some of these American teams. Remember, for a lot of these players, this is the first time they've ever had to do all the travel that they're doing now, and that's causing some issues for them.
That's a Western hockey type game that Anaheim plays, and they play it well. They hit, they make you pay for touching the puck, and they're good at it. So this is going to be a difficult game for Ottawa to win.
But you know another team in the West who isn't playing well? The Vancouver Canucks.
The
Vancouver Canucks are also playing tonight at 7 p.m. apparently. They will be playing the Columbus Blue Jackets if they decide to show up. So Vancouver needs to find a way to score. And I think they need to stop trying to get the nice goal, stop getting the pretty goal, and just score. Get saves or go home. If Demko doesn't stand on his head, they don't have a chance in HE double hockey sticks. And when I say start to care, do you know why I say start to care? TJ Miller literally yelled in a practice, "We don't know what the we're doing." And it's like, when you hear that, he cares. But does the rest of the team care?
See, take DJ Smith and put him on play in Vancouver's locker room. Take DJ Smith and put him on play in Montreal's locker room. Let's start to care. Play 60 minutes. Put a full team out there. Put a full effort out there.
And deep.
And give 110%.
120%. But let's move on to the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the San Jose Sharks.
No, you missed one. We've got the Canadiens versus the Sabres tonight at 7 p.m. first.
Oopsie poopsies.
Well, and back to that, gotta care.
Yeah.
The keys to victory for the Montreal Canadiens, they have to find a different way to score. They don't go into that danger zone. They need to go into that danger zone. Their goaltending, well, here's hoping Price is back soon. I think their goaltending is what their goaltending is. And defensively, they're a bit lacking. They, again, don't care.
They don't, and you know what, too, and Montreal fans, I apologize. I did not mean to skip you there on the script. But their 6-game losing streak is another big problem, and they're hoping to snap it against Buffalo, but Buffalo is a 500 team around
and they're
there right
getting
now.
better.
And they're starting, Buffalo, you can tell they're starting to play to their system.
They care.
They care. They're listening to their coach. I think getting rid of Eichel, I'm not even blaming Jack Eichel for the situation, but it was a situation that was just rough on all the players.
And it was distracting.
It was
a
very
big distraction like that, doesn't matter what sport you're in, a big distraction like that is just going to hang over your head till you deal with it. And it was dealt with by sending him on a deal.
Now can I go to the game that I tried to go to?
Yes, you can go to your damned Leafs game.
Again, I do apologize, everyone, but now we have the Leafs versus the San Jose Sharks. So the Leafs, the core four needs to continue to play strong. And I have here as a key, protect Joseph Woll, limit shots. So he just came off his first shutout in the NHL. If you can have another strong start, whether the Leafs win or lose, you're building his confidence, which is then going to raise a question, what happens with Mrazek? But
He
again,
goes and plays in Ottawa.
That's a topic for another day.
He goes
for
and plays
San
in
Jose, they've been surprisingly really good. I'm not sure who will be in net. I'm kind of hoping it's Reimer, because I'd love to see Reimer battling his former team again, who was having an outstanding year, by the way, in San Jose. I'd like to add. But
I'd like to add that top 5 in most categories right now
are Campbell, Reimer, and Anderson.
Reimer, Anderson, and a couple others
Which
scattered in
absolutely
amongst. But it's
hilarious.
that the past 3 goaltenders are now the top 3 goaltenders in the league.
I know, but now let's move on to Saturday. This is very weird that the Leafs, the NHL is their bulk of games tonight. But on Saturday at 7, we have the Montreal Canadiens versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that 6-game losing streak, very good chance, could be turned to 7 tonight, and may even be going to 8 against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is playing some really good hockey right now. Crosby's rolling, their 4 lines are rolling, and for Montreal, the keys to victory change a little bit being a back-to-back. Play smart back-to-back. The reason why I say that is you're a lot more tired playing back-to-back, and I think these are going to be physical games for Montreal. And they just need to play smart and don't turn the puck over. And for Pittsburgh, if they can just overpower Montreal, they'll win easily.
They do a good job of that now. They were struggling early in the season.
Well, that was no Crosby, no Malkin, no Carter, no...
Pittsburgh has come back around to overpowering teams.
And I think Pittsburgh's at the point where originally we were talking that they might not even be a playoff team, and now they're definitely a playoff team. But let's go on to the LA Kings versus the Ottawa Senators. Similar situation for Ottawa. They'll be in a back-to-back. So I think for Ottawa, they just need to try to play smart again. And don't let LA play their hit early and hit often style of play.
LA is coming across the country to play Ottawa. They just got spanked by the Leafs.
They did. They're going to be
I feel really, really, really bad for Ottawa, especially if they don't win tonight, because that's just going to get ugly in a hurry.
It will. But last, but certainly not least, we have the Jets versus the Flames, which this is almost a juggernaut battle here on Western teams in Canada. Both of these teams are very, very solid. I'm predicting that this will be a very, very close game. I think it's going to get physical. I think for Winnipeg, they need to find some secondary scoring. They're guys that were on our needs improvement list, need to, improve. Big waves at big moments, and what I mean by that is like when they can get to the point and really make those big plays, can they make them for Calgary? I think if they can get an early start, I don't think Winnipeg has much of a chance if they can jump on them early.
If you can bury the already down on themselves Jets a little bit, it's going to be difficult to come back. But things that are difficult to come back to for another week is our show.
Yep, we got to go. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. Make sure if you want to see other episodes of 705 Sports, First Local, everything we do, head over to Video On Demand.
And our CFL preview is there.
And our CFL playoff preview is there.
I think we're both back next week. I'm back next week. Unless I've been fired, you're back. We're both back next week. We'll see you next Friday at noon.
We all know that 705 Sports loves to take questions from the community, and we're looking to go one step further. Send in your video question, and it will be used on the show. Dan and I will break down your question and answer it the best to our ability so you can really feel you're a part of the 705 Sports community. 705 Sports airs every Friday at noon on TV and Sioux Online's Facebook page, plus our video-on-demand service at SiouxOnline.com.